Yeah, so basically my research is looking into ways and how we could promote resilience levels, particularly among young people, through blogs. And it sounds a bit, I would say, kind of modern, but it's not really modern because it traces back its idea to expressive writing, which was introduced by James Baker in the 1980s. So just to give you an idea of what James Baker did in the 1980s, he encouraged people to express themselves, especially traumatic life events, through writing, with the idea that it could improve their well-being. And so I kind of modernize that concept of expressive writing into blogging, because right now we're no longer restricted to pen and paper. We now have blogs, we now have social media, and just like this, we have online video calls. So I just transferred the idea of expressive writing into a digital mode. And my PhD project specifically is targeting young people in low and middle income countries, particularly in Southeast Asia, because that's where I'm from. So the research has three phases. So the first phase of the research was an interview with 15 young people from the Philippines. So I asked them what they think about resilience and what they think about blogging as a mode of improving their resilience levels. And then the second phase, I analyze blog contents on 10 countries in Southeast Asia, 9 countries, sorry, 9 countries in Southeast Asia. And then finally, I did a meta-analysis. That's the third phase of the study, trying to identify the efficacy of expressive writing. I'm sorry, trying to identify the efficacy of blog-based interventions. So that's my study. Yes. So for everyone who's listening, some of you might have already finished your PhD or in the process of doing that PhD. My biggest challenge was my research project has completely transformed into what I originally proposed it to be. So that was not the original idea. So there's a lot of, twists and turns along the way. So that's the biggest challenge. I think you just have to be flexible with, doing your research project. That, what you initially envision it to be is not going to be your research project. So that's one. Second is because I'm an online PhD student. So I've done my PhD. I'm still not finished with my PhD. I'm on my fourth year. So I've been doing my PhD for 4 years now, and I'm not based on campus. I'm just at home. So, and I've only been to campus, I think, twice, probably twice, for the past 4 years. So it's quite difficult because you have to be. It's not so much of the I would say it's not so much with the social aspect. I know it sounds a bit wrong, but I'm an introvert, so I prefer my own company. So it's not so much about the social aspect, but it's more about imposing some levels of self-discipline, because when you're working online and you're not hanging out with people doing the same work, it's so easy just to procrastinate. Those are my biggest challenges to finish the PhD, basically. And I'm interested with blogging because outside of academia, that's really what I'm doing. So I'm interested to find out how else we can use that to cultivate resilience. And resilience is something that I'm really interested about. So basically, it just comes down to, you know, um, being interested with the topic. So that's my motivation. And also my husband is very supportive of me. Yeah, that's the motivation. Yeah, I feel I'm still a beginning researcher, so it's a bit difficult for me to give advice, but I could probably share what works for me. So one is networking. It's really important that you network with people because that's where you would find your co-authors. And I'd like to thank Eurasia for providing a platform for researchers to network, because I've attended some of your on-site events, but of course, with the advent of COVID, it has changed the landscape and how we do conferences now. But even with online conferences, I've also managed to network with people, so that's really important. In fact, with the last conference that I've attended from Eurasia, I met a researcher from Japan, and we happen to be both interested with resilience, and now we're talking about, potentially collaborating. So it's really important to network. Second is that I think we're kind of obsessed with, that we have to publish in a Scopus Index journal, and I can't blame beginning researchers for that, because your institutions incentivize you for publishing a Scopus Index journal. But whether you publish in a Scopus Index journal or not, it's not really, that should not be the metric of your research, of your value as a researcher. There are different, journals that you could publish with. Like, I know Eurasia also ran their own open access journal. I also ran my own open access journal through Cyprus Journal of Psychology. So yeah, just those two. Networking, and second, don't be so obsessed with publishing on Scopus Index journals. One of the highlights about attending Eurasia conference is that there is a diversity of topic, and there's also a diversity of presenters. You would often attend conferences, be it on-site or online, where most of the participants just focus on one or two or three countries, so sometimes there's one region. And I like that Eurasia managed to collate all of these researchers from different fields and from different countries. So it's really important. Sometimes you would think that it's not relevant to what you're doing, but you also get an idea of how, how other researchers, particularly in different fields, how they carry out their research, what are the challenges that they encounter. And in a way, that would also be relevant to what you're doing.